Hello everyone, in this video let us talk about having too many Jira administrators. Now in case you are trying to make sure that your Jira instance runs perfectly for the coming few months or maybe hopefully for a few years, then you should take care of it from the very beginning. Now one of the most important aspect of Jira is definitely its ability to have different customizations. In Jira, you can do a lot of customizations to make it work for various teams. But this advantage of Jira, where you can do various customizations, can also be its disadvantage if you don't do it properly. Now, I talked about earlier about this concept of change control board. Ideally, you should take your Jira customizations very seriously. You should create maybe some kind of a project, a simple project in your own Jira instance where you keep track of all the customizations. Usually in organizations, there is a support team, there is a team dedicated for doing any changes to Jira, which ideally should be the case, but you should review all those changes. And let us say if there is a simple request of adding a new custom field or maybe doing any modifications to the workflow, you should ideally review it or maybe at least discuss it with the stakeholders. Now, when you have a Jira instance where Jira is being used by variety of teams, let us say you're trying to develop a software or maybe you're doing some testing, you should have some standard templates. And whenever there is a new project that is required to be added in Jira, you should follow the templates that you already have. Now, from time to time, you will get, of course, requests from the users who are using Jira for their day-to-day activity. They want to have maybe a new field or maybe they want to add a new issue type. Now, it is always fine to add or maybe do those customizations, but those customizations should make sense. For example, there is no point and there is no reason why you should have 5 custom fields with the same name. There is no need for having issue types with the same name. There is no need of 2 or 3 workflows all doing the same thing. And this actually happens a lot in organizations because they don't really have a lot of control over what changes are being done to their Jira instance. And if you have too many Jira administrators, then it is very difficult to keep track of those changes. And ideally, you should have maybe a couple of people who are doing most of the changes, but you don't really need to have 2 or 3 people doing all the changes manually. You may have, let us say, a request for adding couple of fields, doing changes, or maybe adding some states, maybe doing some changes to the permission schemes. But you can use a tool like Project Configurator, which is quite good, and your support team can do all their changes on maybe a staging instance of Jira. And when you are ready to go live with those changes, maybe on a specific date, or maybe you should agree on a date when your changes will be done on production, you can use Project Configurator. You can use the snapshot that your support team can create on a staging instance. And on the day when your Jira administrators on production will be doing those changes, they will of course take a look at those changes that are going to be done on production. Now the point here that I'm trying to make is that don't do changes on production instance of Jira without giving it a second thought. There has to be a good reason why people need those customizations, and that is why if we go back to the original point of having a change control board where you monitor each and every change that is happening to Jira, it is really important. At the same time, if you are doing, let us say, a new implementation of Jira, maybe you are trying to use Jira for the very first time, or maybe you are moving from a different tool, a legacy tool, to Jira, then you have a very good opportunity in the beginning to do it right. Because when you do things right from the very beginning, you will have a Jira instance after maybe 5 years or 3 years or 2 years with a lot less mess to worry about. And in the beginning, I recommend that you consult an Atlassian expert. And these Atlassian experts, these Atlassian consultants, they have experience not just on the tool, but they can also guide you with the different processes. For example, if you are trying to implement safe or agile based processes and you want to follow these practices in your software development, then of course you need some guidance on these processes. But having a knowledge of a tool like Jira and having a knowledge of these processes as well will really help you. And these Atlassian consultants can definitely guide you in the right direction from the very beginning. And there is also one more thing that I want to talk about in this video, and that is creating some kind of documentation. In case you're using, let us say, Confluence, or maybe you just have your documentation on your local system, or maybe you're using Word files, or maybe you have some intranet, keep a documentation of all those standard templates. For example, let me give you a very simple example. Let us say you have around 50 projects in Jira, and most of those projects, let us say 30 projects out of 50 are doing software development and they are doing something similar. Now create some standard templates, and at the same time keep a documentation of those templates somewhere on your document management system. It could be a Word file, it could be a Confluence, or it could be your intranet. And on that documentation, mention all the customizations that you want to do. For example, maybe you want to create some issue types, maybe you want to have some workflows, and maybe those workflows are mapped to some issue types, and at the same time you may be in a need of a few custom fields. So when you keep a documentation of all those standard templates, it is always good for a new Jira administrators to take over. For example, if I am a Jira administrator of a new Jira instance, or maybe I am given this task of maintaining a Jira instance which is already in place for maybe 5 or 10 years, then if I have a reference or a document where I can read and where I can understand the purpose of those customizations that people have been doing, then I will be able to maintain it properly. And I really insist and I really recommend that there is no harm in maintaining a good documentation from the very beginning. So these are all the things that I wanted to cover in this video, and I wanted to emphasize that there is no point having too many Jira administrators if you want to use Jira effectively. So I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new in this video. Thank you very much.